My name is Brad Skafish. I'm an attorney, also known as a lawyer. I primarily deal with personal injury cases for plaintiffs. So a very common scenario would be representing somebody who's been injured in a car accident that was caused by someone else. But we can handle cases where somebody is harmed through any type of negligence, and there are a wide variety of things that lead to that. That is just one type of a lawyer. There are lawyers that represent insurance companies on the other side of the cases where we're representing the plaintiffs. There are lawyers who do criminal work, so those would be the attorneys who represent people accused of crimes, and also the attorneys who represent the government prosecuting the accused criminals. There are lawyers who handle things such as bankruptcies, divorces. There are transactional lawyers who don't go to court as much, but they draft a lot of documents. They negotiate deals. They work on contracts. There are intellectual property lawyers who deal with things like copyrights and patents. So as I said, there are a number of things you can do in the legal world. I would say that I got into this type of work because I like things like debating and arguing out points. My family would tell you that I like to argue, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you find yourself to be the kind of person who is always getting involved in some kind of a debate on something, you might find that this is a good way to use that skill professionally. As far as education, you need to go to law school, and to be able to go to law school, you will first have to complete a 4-year college degree. Law school itself is another 3 years after that. I did all of my schooling at IU, Indiana. Go Hoosiers. For those of you who are Purdue fans, you will not be able to get a law degree at Purdue because they don't have a law school. You might have to jump over to the good side and finish your education there if that's what you wish to do. After you complete law school, you will also need to pass a bar exam in whatever state or jurisdiction that you intend to practice in. I took the bar exam for Illinois and also in Indiana. My firm, Deutschman and Skafish, is located in Chicago, but I do live here in Northwest Indiana in Valparaiso, and I commute in to work on a daily basis. One of the nice things we have here in the Valpo area is the Chicago Dash bus system. And so I have a daily commute, at least during normal times. Lately, during the coronavirus, it has upended my job as just like a lot of other people's, but I've been fortunate enough to keep on working and keep on earning a living. So my day on a normal basis is a little bit longer than some might be, even working the same hours because I'm on a bus, but that's downtime, time to rest, time to read. For those of you who might wonder what it's like to commute into a bigger city and live in a more suburban location. As far as the daily life of things I do as an attorney, most mornings I will go into court. Frequently those are just minor matters, what they consider status appearances or case managements, where you tell the judge what's going on in a particular case, and the judge advises you as to what he or she wants you to do next. I spend a lot of afternoons doing depositions, which are where somebody's statement is taken under oath to be used later if the case goes as far as a trial. There are cases that reach trial. It's actually a fairly small percentage, but part of my job is to handle the cases at trial if they get that far. That can be an exciting thing. It can also be stressful, and that's something that's part of the job that you would have to understand. You're taking on somebody's problems, and they're putting a lot of faith in you to handle them well. So it is a lot to keep in mind. But while trials aren't exactly like they might be portrayed in TV and movies, they can be exciting resolutions to a case, and unlike a lot of other careers, you can end up in a situation where there is a winner and a loser, and so it can be pretty high stakes at times. Other things that I'm involved in doing would be drafting motions, where you want some type of relief from the court before a case gets all the way to a trial, arguing those motions, negotiating settlements, drafting the documents that go along with the settlements. As far as tools of the trade, there really aren't many physical tools that are required. You're probably going to wear a suit and tie most days, as I do, typically carry a briefcase. But I would say as far as tools, public speaking, the ability and willingness to do public speaking is a major tool, especially for an attorney who does litigation as I do. If you are more interested in transactional law, where you're drafting documents, negotiating with other lawyers, you may not need to use that as much. So that's something to keep in mind, that there are avenues for people who do and don't like public speaking, but certain aspects of legal practice, I would say it's an essential to have. One of the things I really like about my job is being able to help people take on a serious issue and, as best as possible, solve their problems. Generally, people would prefer not to have had the problem in the first place and to just put things back to square one. But when that's impossible in the real world, sometimes the second best is to get things to as fair of a resolution as they possibly can. And that's something they typically can't do without an attorney with the experience to help them. As far as things that maybe I don't like as much or that you'd have to keep in mind, as I alluded to earlier, it can be stressful to take on somebody else's problems. Because you know it's serious, and sometimes it's not a problem that might have mattered as much if it happened to you, but it's a big deal to this person and you've taken on that responsibility. You have to keep that in mind. So you can't take something with less than 100% when you know that it's really serious to somebody else that you're representing as a client. One of the things they ask us to consider for those of you watching this are surprising challenges in the career. I would say, in terms of making a career of it, one thing that I heard when I was younger, and I think this bit of wisdom is still passed around, is that you can do anything with a law degree. While I know what people mean by that, I don't know that it's the best advice. I would suggest if you're going to undertake something like going to law school, you should do it if you're interested in actually practicing law. I think getting a law degree because you want to go into the business world or something else, in my opinion, is not the best use of your time. It's expensive, and it takes 3 years of your time to go to law school. And I think there have been times in recent history when there have been economic downturns and people choose to go to law school as a means of kind of putting off moving into the adult working world in hopes that things will improve and they can meet it with more education. And I found, at least when I came out of school, there were probably more qualified law school graduates than there were good jobs for them to go around. I wouldn't say this to discourage anybody from going into the legal field. I think you should seriously consider it if it's something that interests you, but I wouldn't do it as a way of augmenting another set of skills or education, because I don't think you'll find that's just the best way to use your time. You will continue learning things in a legal career day to day. Every case has some unique facts that are different than ones you've handled before, and it's very common, especially doing litigation work, to go back to looking up cases that have come before, looking up aspects of the law that you might not be as familiar with. Because as lawyers, we don't have every case or every law memorized. There's research involved, and you brush up on things you already knew and you learn new things. You will be required by most states to take continuing legal education courses, which are kind of like classwork, but typically it's more attending a video presentation or an in-person seminar without any actual testing or grading on it, just to make sure that you're learning about new developments in the law and keeping yourself abreast of what's going on. One of the questions that I know students often ask is about what the beginning salary is. There is a wide variance for lawyers. I think generally you could expect to probably make at least in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, but it can also go significantly upwards. There are large firms that start people well into the six figures. Those jobs are very competitive. There aren't a lot of them to go around, but I guess what I'm trying to get across is you can expect to make a good living, but there are so many different areas on the pay scale depending on what you do. And it's not all a matter of whether somebody gets the best job or the job they wanted. There are jobs that are desirable that just don't pay as well. Some people want to go into public service. They want to do government work, things that are good jobs that are steady and provide benefits, but might not offer the same beginning pay. And some of those jobs also are great on a resume if you want to do something else later on down the line. So compared to some careers, I wouldn't say it's as clear where you're going to start, because it may depend on what you want out of it, whether you're going for the most money you can get or whether you're going for a specific position. But I will say being an attorney is a good way to earn a good living. I'm glad to be a lawyer. I'm proud of the life that I'm able to provide for my family. So I hope that this presentation has helped you learn a little bit about what it's like to be a lawyer. Thank you.